What's up, everybody? It's Brandon from Box Office Banner and Cult Flick Symposium, and I'm, of course, back with another review. This time I will be talking about Godzilla times Kong. X Kong. Is it Verse Kong? No, it's not. That was the last one. What is even the title of this movie, people? I didn't really have to know to be hyped for it. We're talking about the monster verse here. I knew it wasn't going to be Godzilla minus one, which was a fucking masterpiece. I knew it wouldn't be that, but I'm still here for these movies. I was a little worried going into this one that maybe it's about to run out of steam, where yes, it could be still entertaining, but maybe the lack of good human characters would finally set me over the edge where it's like, okay, yeah, there's some cool monster violence here, but how much more of this can I really watch and just be accepting of everything else? Sure, you have to know what you're getting yourself into. You shouldn't go into this movie thinking Shawshank Redemption. You know what you're getting yourself into, but everything has a shelf life. Eventually, things can run amok and then run amok no longer. Although they're still running amok, it's just still not as engaging as it once was. Everything has a shelf life. I will reiterate that. So I was a little worried if they did not pull off the characters, which after Rebecca Hall wasn't that interesting in these movies. I mean, she's fine, but nothing too special. I pretty much gave up on the fact that they would ever have just good characters in these movies. And I got to tell you, that happened again. But it was expected, so I didn't rip the movie apart right away. But I was sat there, and I even was thinking about it. I'm like, that kind of feels like the mountaintop of the action. Godzilla vs. Kong. Do I really need to watch all this other shit? I had bad vibes in my head, which I did not want to have, but sometimes it's human nature. So I'm watching this movie, and it's playing out like all the other ones, and I'm like, okay, I'm not really feeling the acting. I'm not really feeling the human characters. For whatever reason, they just cannot seem to get these things right, even though Rebecca Hall is one of my favorite working actors by a mile. And I started to wonder, I'm like, am I even going to care about the action at this point? And I was worried I was getting into my own head, but I also was like, you know what? We're 5 movies in. Maybe this is a natural feeling. And I got to tell you, for a lot of the time, I was just not into it. A lot of the runtime, I should say. I just could not get into this movie. I mean, it wasn't bad, but I felt for the first time I was like, okay, this needs to be the last fucking one because I might be able to stomach this by the end of it in terms of giving it an average score, but I'm just kind of over it. And this is the first one I felt that in. And I was bothered by it, but that can't deny how I felt, people. But I got to tell you, the action got me again. Once it introduced the new villains, I was really impressed with Scar King. I thought he was really cool. I don't remember what is the other villain in this movie. I don't even know how much they showed or revealed in trailers and certain shit because I don't really dive into that type of shit like other people. But the other villain in this movie, just in case it's a surprise, did not do it for me at all. So it was a half and half. But I will say Scar King won me over. I loved everything about this character, and it's really what locked me back into just being like, okay, this is interesting enough. So I have something to cope with the action. It's not just flat out action. Usually the flat out action, maybe an interesting storyline in terms of the villains that, within the MonsterVerse can kind of win me over. Even sometimes where that's not there and it's just the action's cool enough to get me by. I didn't know if action was just going to carry me to victory in terms of liking the movie this time around. And when Scar King came on the scene, and I really embraced his character, who, to my knowledge, which I don't know where I would have missed it, I've seen all these movies before, is a new villain. I was impressed with what they did with that, and it made me kind of reinvigorate into the story to where I was like, I'll be fucking damned, they got me again. So overall, guys, I really don't have much more to say about this movie because it's like the ultimate, you're going to get what you think you're going to get type of movie, you know what I mean? And that's exactly what I got. I just was able to be entertained just enough for me to be brought along, to be open to another one. But as much as it felt like it ran its course, it did swoon me over enough in the end for me to be more excited about more multiverse or monsterverse action, I should say. There was a lot of cool stuff with Godzilla and Kong both in this movie. You don't have to worry about that type of shit. But if you were somehow expecting, especially coming off after -1, that maybe they're going to step up their game with the actors, I didn't like anybody in this movie. The deaf girl in this movie, she's one of those characters. It's fine. I I don't think she does anything crazy. She plays, a decent deaf girl. I mean, you don't really have to do as much, I guess, if you're deaf. I mean, you kind of, I'm not going to take away from a performance. There's been plenty of performances where you don't have to say a damn word and you can give so much. But these type of movies don't call for that. It's not there's no emotion, but it's not anything special. It's just she's fine. Rebecca Hall's fine, but I want more from her because of how much I love her as an actress. And then everybody else in this movie is like abysmal to me. That's just around. I cannot get in. I forget what the black guy's name is. He's in the other ones too, or at least one other one from what I remember. I know he's in at least one other one. Okay, Godzilla vs Kong at least. He might be in another one. I'd have to rewatch these movies. I've not been able to get into him in anything he's been in at all. I just don't know what it is. I cannot get into him. I thought he was pretty good. I think the movie's called Causeway with Jennifer Lawrence. That's probably the one time I've seen him, and I'm like, okay, dude, nice. I enjoyed you. And then the other guy that's supposed to be like the comedic relief of the movie, a lot of the time too, is just I just can't take him serious. And I feel like that's my biggest problem now, even more so to where like I'm tired of these human characters where it almost feels like you can feel, you know what I mean? Like the directors and everybody behind the scenes thinking that they are way better at what they're doing than what they are. And maybe I'm alone on this. Maybe, the character stuff is played out in terms of how bad it is, because it probably is to some degree. But, we want something else to latch onto, just to have something. It becomes worse as time goes on because it's still a problem, even though if it's not horrible, it has not been rectified at all. So I think it drags, but I don't know, maybe the comedy works for other people, but that's like the main thing in this one where I was sitting there, man, I just was like, you're forcing too much into it. It's taken away from the seriousness of it. Maybe you do just play it dead ass serious at this point, but also maybe it's taking itself too serious at that point. There's a middle ground here somewhere, people. I don't know where it's at, but they just cannot seem to get it right with the human characters. And I mean, you guessed it. It happened again. But again, if you're here for the monster fun, and that's all you're gonna need, and you can watch 100 of these movies, I'm here to tell you, do not fret. You will fucking enjoy this. And if you have seen this, let me know your thoughts on this one. It did fucking win me over by the end of the movie. I have to admit, it was fun. It's a good blockbuster movie that really dials up even the budget at times. It seemed it was like, wow, like, man, how much money did they dump into this? It's a fun fucking movie, man. Definitely check it out if this is your thing. But if you're even a more drastic version of me that's legitimately expecting for whatever reason for this one to be more straightforward and very well acted with Godzilla and company as like a backdrop, maybe after seeing -1, remember, this is not the same ballpark as -1. They're aiming for two completely different things. And, if you can temper that, I think you're going to have a good time again. Even if you're skeptical like I was, it still won me over, man. Godzilla, Kong, pretty solid still. I'll give it a 7.2 out of 10. I'm not mad at it. Bring me another one, damn it. Bring me another one. God, they keep getting me. Love you guys. Peace.